The moment the Marine commander snapped the words, "Find someone else," the entire emergency ward seemed to freeze, as if time itself had stumbled. His voice was sharp, edged with exhaustion and buried pain, and it echoed through the sterile hallway like a verdict. No one could have guessed that within minutes, a single, unexpected revelation from a quiet nurse would unravel years of buried sacrifice, loyalty, and unspoken love, changing the fate of everyone in that room forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the hidden power of compassion, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that touch the heart. The hospital stood on the outskirts of San Diego, a sprawling medical complex where countless stories of survival and loss collided every day. Commander Matthew Walker, a decorated Marine officer in his early 40s, lay on a narrow bed in a trauma room, his powerful frame weakened by injuries from a classified operation gone wrong. His dark hair was streaked with gray, his face hardened by years of war and command, and his eyes reflected the kind of exhaustion that no amount of rest could cure. For 2 decades, he had led men into battle, watched brothers fall, and carried the weight of every decision that determined who came back alive. Now, for the first time, he was powerless, dependent on strangers for survival, and the vulnerability made him furious. Nurse Grace Miller moved quietly through the room, adjusting monitors and checking vitals with gentle precision. At 32, she carried herself with calm strength, her chestnut hair pulled into a neat bun, her tired eyes softened by empathy. She had seen enough suffering to last a lifetime, yet she never allowed it to harden her heart. To her, every patient was a story waiting to be understood. She had been assigned to Matthew's care since he arrived, and from the moment she saw the rigid tension in his body, she sensed the storm raging beneath his stoic exterior. Matthew dismissed every nurse who approached him, refusing help, barking orders as if still on the battlefield. When Grace stepped in, he barely looked at her, his jaw tightening as she began her routine checks. The words, "Find someone else," came without warning, fueled by frustration, pain, and a desperate need to remain in control. The room fell silent, nurses exchanging uneasy glances, accustomed to difficult patients but unprepared for the raw intensity in his tone. Grace paused, absorbing the sting of his words, yet something in his eyes told her this was not cruelty, but fear. Instead of leaving, she continued her work, her hands steady, her expression calm. She had learned long ago that behind anger often hid deep wounds. As she adjusted the bandage near his shoulder, a glimpse of ink beneath the medical tape caught her attention. The edge of a faded tattoo peeked through, a familiar symbol she had seen once before, etched into her memory like a scar. Her breath hitched, and for a moment, the sterile room dissolved into a blur of memories she had spent years trying to bury. Years earlier, Grace had been a volunteer medic in a disaster response unit attached to a Marine task force deployed after a catastrophic hurricane devastated a coastal town in Louisiana. Chaos ruled those days, with collapsed buildings, wounded civilians, and a desperate shortage of supplies. Amid the devastation, a small Marine unit became her shield, protecting medics and civilians alike from danger. Their commander, a younger Matthew Walker, had been relentless in his efforts to rescue survivors, often placing himself in harm's way to save others. It was during one of those harrowing nights that Grace's life had been forever changed. Pinned beneath the rubble of a collapsed school, Grace had felt her strength fade, her lungs burning as dust filled the air. Panic clawed at her chest as darkness closed in. Then, through the choking silence, she heard a voice calling out, steady and commanding, guiding his team with unyielding resolve. Matthew had led the rescue, tearing through debris with his bare hands until they reached her. She remembered his eyes, fierce yet compassionate, as he reassured her while lifting the weight that trapped her. That night, he saved her life, then disappeared back into the chaos before she could even learn his name. The tattoo on his shoulder was unmistakable, the emblem of that very unit. Her heart pounded as the reality sank in. The man who now pushed everyone away was the same Marine who had once pulled her from the jaws of death. Emotion surged through her, but she kept her composure, continuing her duties as if nothing had changed. Yet, from that moment on, every movement she made carried a deeper meaning. Over the next several days, Grace became Matthew's primary nurse. She anticipated his needs before he voiced them, managed his pain with careful balance, and spoke to him with a quiet respect that slowly eroded his defenses. Though he remained guarded, the sharp edges of his temper dulled, replaced by a weary silence. Late one evening, while the ward lay hushed under dimmed lights, she gently cleaned the wound near his tattoo, unable to ignore the significance any longer. She finally revealed that she recognized his unit's emblem and that she had once been saved by a Marine commander during a disaster relief mission. Her voice trembled slightly as she recounted the night buried beneath rubble, the strength that had lifted her back into the world. As she spoke, Matthew's rigid posture softened. His eyes narrowed in concentration, then widened with recognition. Memories he had sealed away flooded back, the chaos, the desperation, the young medic pulled from the wreckage, her face streaked with dust and tears. In that quiet room, a powerful realization took hold. The woman he had nearly dismissed was someone whose life he had once saved, and now she was the one ensuring his survival. The symmetry of it left him breathless. For the first time since his injury, emotion broke through his disciplined control. Guilt surfaced for his earlier harshness, followed by gratitude and a sense of awe at the unpredictable paths life carved. From that night forward, something shifted between them. Matthew allowed himself to trust her, to speak of the nightmares that haunted him, the weight of command that never lifted, even in sleep. Grace listened without judgment, offering understanding instead of solutions. In return, he shared stories of fallen comrades, of sacrifices unseen by the world, of the loneliness that came with leadership. Their conversation stretched into the early hours, forging a bond neither had expected. Recovery was slow and grueling. Physical therapy pushed Matthew to his limits, reopening wounds both physical and emotional. There were days he wanted to quit, to surrender to the exhaustion that clung to his bones. Each time, Grace stood by him, her quiet encouragement reigniting his determination. She reminded him of the lives he had saved, the hope he had inspired, the strength that still lived within him. Slowly, step by painful step, he reclaimed his mobility, his confidence, and a sense of purpose beyond the battlefield. As weeks passed, the sterile hospital room transformed into a place of connection and healing. Laughter began to replace silence, and shared memories softened the edges of their pasts. Grace confessed that after the disaster mission, she had spent years wondering about the Marine who had rescued her, carrying his bravery as a guiding light through her nursing career. Matthew admitted that moments like saving her were the only times he truly felt the meaning of his service, beyond orders and strategy. The day of his discharge arrived under a bright California sky. Standing on unsteady legs, Matthew felt a profound sense of gratitude for the woman who had helped piece him back together. Their journey had begun in chaos and pain, yet led them to understanding and hope. Before leaving, he thanked her for refusing to walk away when he had tried to push her out, acknowledging that her persistence had saved him in ways medicine alone never could. As he stepped outside, the sunlight warming his face, Matthew realized that life had given him an unexpected second chance, not just at survival, but at connection. Grace watched him go, her heart full, knowing that some bonds, forged in adversity, never truly fade. Their paths would diverge, yet the imprint of their shared story would remain, a testament to the enduring power of compassion. If this story touched your heart, stirred your emotions, or reminded you of the strength found in kindness, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these stories reach those who need hope the most. And before this video ends, leave a comment sharing what part of the story moved you the deepest. Your words might inspire someone else who is silently struggling. In a world often defined by conflict and loss, it is the quiet acts of courage, the gentle persistence of care, and the unexpected intersections of lives that restore our faith. Sometimes, the person we least expect becomes the answer to our deepest need, and sometimes, a single revealed tattoo can uncover a story powerful enough to heal two broken souls at once.